It's time for The Drive with Q on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Now, here's Q.
Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Wednesday edition of The Drive with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM The Game studios. Southwest Florida's newest game in town under the Coastal Sports Network umbrella. Mi hermano Angel Martinez behind the glass producing the show. Keeping us on the air. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on this 8th of January, 2025. Don't forget the 727-858-6650. That will get you involved into a sports talk, bring something to the table. A lot of NFL to dive into today. We will mix in a little NBA. We will mix in a little hot stove baseball on this just absolutely nasty January afternoon. I have no idea what the hell is going on in these other states weather-wise. I mean, obviously thoughts and prayers going out west, California, the fires and everything. I know the gang in Florida with the short sleeves on right now. Angel is enjoying probably, 60-degree weather. Oh, my goodness, it's so freaking cold. We're dealing with snow, wind, gust, flurries. It's just utterly ridiculous. Poor Kiki, when she goes out there, I think stuff's going to freeze when it comes out of her. So we've got a lot of stuff going on this Wednesday right now. But we are going to entertain you as we typically do over the next 2 hours. So I wanted to start with wildcard weekend, NFL. I believe it's still the best time of the year. Wildcard weekend, there's just drama, there's theatrics, there's the dramatic moments. We've seen it year in and year out. We'll give you an update on Jalen Hurts. Oh, by the way, for Eagles fans practicing today. So that is a good sign, if you will, is it not? But I also want to get your thoughts on these firings in the NFL. And I've talked about it. I mentioned it the other night when I was on the air on Tuesday night, audio version 5 to 6. And we had a really good dialogue. I had a lot of guys chiming in. And I totally appreciate the back and forth because everyone has their thoughts. Everyone has their opinions on why in the world are we getting one and done in the NFL? Like what's the cause? Because I think there's a couple things as we set the stage for today. I think it's alarming, this trend right now in the NFL where these coaches are one and done. And I'll ask you guys, 727-858-6650. Is it lack of patience? Is it knee-jerk reaction? Wrong fit, wrong hire? So, for instance, what's transpired over the last couple of days in the NFL? Gerard Mayo, Doug Peterson, which not one and done, but hear me out. Antonio Pierce. And let's be honest, that's technically a one and done because they ripped the interim tag off of him late last season. But yet, somehow in the madness, the GMs are still allowed to keep their jobs, which is kind of maddening to me. So if you've listened to the sound yesterday with Shad Khan, the Jacksonville Jags owner, right with the GM right there, Trent Baalke, basically he was asked, would you make a decision if a head coach came in and gave you input that you have to get rid of the GM? And he basically said, yes, that's not a rigging endorsement. And I'll get to these new reports that have surfaced regarding Gerard Mayo, because I think he had to go. I think it was a culmination of egg on the face by Robert Kraft. It was a bad hire. He was not ready to coach in the NFL. There's other candidates that were more viable option than Gerard Mayo. Now you have these reports coming out that after a loss, he's on the plane wanting to play cards with the players and not look at game film. I mean, that alone reeks getting the hell out of here. But you can also push back and you can come up with the counter argument. The roster was poorly constructed. The coaching staff was poorly constructed. Look, these coaches in the NFL that are successful, look at some of the coaching staffs that they have around them. We joked over the last year or two, what the hell is Sirianni really doing? Are the Eagles going to dip and drop a little bit because they changed their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinators? The coaching staff ultimately makes the head coach. You just got to call it for what it is. You guys know it, and I know it. If you don't have a good coaching staff in place and you can't roster build, the coach is not going to last. Is it lack of patience? Is it knee-jerk reaction, right? Is it knee-jerk reaction? Is it the fact that, listen, you're looking around and you're saying to yourself, this is just not the right guy. Robert Salah with the Jets, you knew it was time for him to go in a different direction. Now, some of these names that we're talking about, I also believe there's retreads in the NFL. And I have a major problem with some of these retreads in the NFL. I don't understand for the life of me, why in the world do we think every coach that had a moderate of success in the NFL and then for some reason got burned out, got fired, burned a bridge, no longer coaching, why do we still believe they can still coach? Or why do we believe they're the best alternative right now? If I hear John Gruden's name, Pete Carroll's name, Belichick, all these reports, Rex Ryan. I mean, this is ridiculous. We've been down this road before. Now, I still believe out of all of them, look, I'll take the hoodie in a second. But point being is you've got some young coordinators out there. You've got some young offensive, defensive coordinators out there that I think are worth their salt. I really do. I'm not going to tell you they're worth their weight in gold, but I think if you think outside the box a little bit, you might find a diamond in the rough. You might find a gem. And I also believe in some cases, I think the phrase he's a player's coach, they play for him, I think it's a false narrative. I think it's overused. It's overplayed. When talking heads say it, it's just, when they talk about pushing the ball down the field, it makes no sense. When they talk about arm talent, it makes no sense. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, to me, players are going to play because they're all incentivized, whether they like the head coach or not. You just got to figure out a way to make it work. And the Raiders, the players could have liked Antonio Pierce. And Antonio Pierce's record was not the best. And you can sit there and say, well, they're still playing hard. Okay, fine. Again, totally understand that. But you have to win football games. And I had, again, back and forth yesterday, great debate, great dialogue with you guys on Facebook and on X. Everyone was saying, how does a guy like Brian Daboll, your guy with the Giants, still have a job? If you listen to me enough, I don't believe he deserves to have a job. I don't think you can justify keeping Daboll with the New York Giants. And then obviously it gets to, well, what about the Rooney Rule, the minority hires? It's not about the black and white issue because 11 coaches who have been one and done, 6 have been white, 5 have been African-American. All I'm saying is the argument that, if it's a bad hire, it's a bad hire, right? If it's a bad hire, it's a bad hire. But is it lack of patience? Is it knee-jerk reaction? Is it you're not supporting the coach? You're not putting a staff around him. You're not roster building, and then therefore, let's just fire these guys. One and done, one and done, one and done. Look what happened with the Houston Texans. That's why everyone started to be up in arms, and rightfully so, when we were talking about the Rooney Rule. Lovie Smith, Culley, and now DeMeco Ryans, deserving of being a head coach, having success with the Texans. But in some cases, some are just bad hires. I can't sit here and honestly or objectively say, I know what's going on with the Raiders, the pulse of the Raiders or Raiders Nation. I don't. But I can tell you this. We talked about it last night, the Mike Grable effect. And you guys are going to think I'm a little cuckoo-y on a Wednesday, but just hear me out. Mike Grable is a hot name right now. Belichick, which we will get into, is still a hot name. But Mike Grable interviewing with the Jets and drawing interest from the Jets and having a solid to really, I guess you can say, interesting interview with the Jets. By all count, there's this flirtation right now. What happens? Other teams catch wind of that because we know about the movement in the NFL. GMs are on the phone constantly. We know social media. Here you go. First, interview, second interview, did well, coming back in 2 weeks, also line up to interview X, Y, and Z. Teams, again, start to see that. And then it's like, we got to make a knee-jerk reaction. We have to make a knee-jerk reaction. Mike Grable's out there. We want to get this guy. Go fire this guy. Go fire Doug. Go fire Gerard Mayo. Go fire Antonio Pierce. Now you have the big elephant in the room in the NFL, and that's Bill Belichick. Because I told you guys this, Belichick wants to coach again in the NFL. I don't care what anyone tells me. I don't care if he's dating a younger girl, he's having fun, he's turning back the clock, here we go, staying up past 11:30, whatever. He's putting together the staff in place in Carolina, the NILs, he gets it. He's going to basically line it up for his son. I understand it. If he wants to get out, it's like $1 million hit. Not a big deal. It's pocket change to the hoodie. He wants to break Shula's record. So now you have these reports that Brady is basically saying, hey, Bill, come on. I'm running the show because let's be honest, Tom Brady's running the show with the Raiders. And we'll get into that a little later on. Running the show with the Raiders. So he's going to have his hand in all these cookie jars, and he's going to present the case for Bill Belichick. He's going to sell Belichick on the Raiders. And if that doesn't fly, then maybe you turn around and it's Mike Grable. But it's the retreading of some of these coaches, man. Robert Salah, now all of a sudden, boom, I'm going to apply for this. I'm going to take this job. And now what happens, right? You have to have the right support staff around you. You have to. 727-858-6650. All right, let's see what you guys are saying on a Wednesday. Jerry texting in from Rhode Island. Always good to hear from him. Up here, talking about Boston and the Mass. We know what was going on, failed to report it. He was also reporting the Kraft the last couple of years. Bill Belichick knew what was happening. He was very second-guessed. They always report it when they don't have to worry about the Kraft's cold shoulder. So you're talking about, again, the writers and what was going on. And I'm wondering, talking more about Hoodie the last time around, or are we talking about Mayo? I mean, if you're on a plane after a loss and you decide you want to play cards with the players, that's not good, man. That's a really, really bad look. It is. It really is. The man chiming in early as only he can. Yeah, that's true. 727-858-6650. What do we got here? Trevor, the B-Boys comes out. Must win now. No one has time for L's. That is correct. And then you go on to say, sounds like you are a card aficionado. If Mayo was playing spades with the players. I get it. Not poker, right? Not poker. X-Man comes back. The man as he only can. Jimmy G can be a retread, like a fine Michelin tire. Interesting. And be the Giants' next starter. Yeah, that's not happening. I don't want to hear that nonsense. I threw out yesterday, and again, kukui, if you will. So you got a couple scenarios going on here. I threw out yesterday that wouldn't it be something if Rodgers decides I'm not going to retire and he's looking around, he's already got that house in North Jersey. I mean, I shiver to think Rodgers under center for the Giants. I shiver to think Russell Wilson under center for the Giants next season. I really do. I think you're in a spot right now where because you kept the GM and you kept the head coach, you'll go after that bridge, but you're not going to go after those guys. Trade that draft pick. Joe D, Summers Point chiming in on Facebook and hit me up on X. Q, I think a lot of it has to do with some of your listeners just mentioned, the lack of patience and zero structure. Look at some of these coaching staffs that have been assembled. How do these guys expect to go out there and win when they don't have the talent? True. Listen, it's tough, man. And you have to just think about it like this. There's 32 jobs in the NFL, right? 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL. And ultimately, if you have an opportunity to be a head coach, you want to take it, you want to run with it, and you want to have a semblance of success. The problem that these coaches are running into is pretty simple. A lot of these owners are concerned with what? It's just making money. I mean, I believe every owner wants to make money, and I believe owners want to win, but I also think they're looking at the bottom line ultimately over winning. Look what's going on in Jacksonville. How many top 5, 10 draft picks have the Jags had over the last 15 years? Like, why can't you build a roster? Why can't you put together the right pieces in place? Why does Trent Baalke still have a job? Look what's going on in Indianapolis. Why are those GMs still safe? Telesco, let's get rid of the head coach. Well, you guys are the one doing the drafting. The GM's going to sign off on the head coach. Typically, you bring in a GM who wants to pick his guy, and his guy picks his guys. That's just how it works. I just don't get it. You start to get in this lost cause if you're some of these franchises, and you have no idea what the hell you're doing. You have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You're looking around, you're saying, well, why can't we win? We have all these draft picks. Why can't we win? 727-858-6650. Vince chimes in. These firings just prove the majority of the franchises have no clue how to win. He goes on, he's got to be a little worried this weekend. He goes on to say, meanwhile, everyone outside Pittsburgh wants to try and put Tomlin on the hot seat for just winning. Ooh, we mentioned, I don't know if you listened in last night there, Vince. We talked a little bit about Tomlin. We talked about Tomlin last night on the show. And there are there's a speculation now, if they were to lose to Baltimore, that they will call into question his job security. And I got railed by Steelers fans last night on X and on Facebook because I pointed out that Tomlin has one of the worst winning percentages in the postseason when you're talking about minimum games. And I gave the list of coaches. I'll give them again. Now, he also won a Super Bowl his second year, but he hasn't done diddly since. And I know Steelers fans do not want to hear that. I understand, and I want to just be accurate with my notes. So Tomlin, here you go. Worst playoff win percentage in modern era, minimum 10 games. Marty Schottenheimer, 278. Dennis Green, I mean, how do you not love Denny Green? 333. Chuck Knox, can never get those Seattle teams over the hump. Had the good year in 83 when they went to the AFC Championship game against the Raiders. John Robinson, 400. Mike Tomlin, 444. Andrew chimes in, Q, 100%. I listened to you last night. Tomlin is one of the worst playoff coaches of all time. Those are facts. Hey, I think this is what's going to transpire. Let me ask you, if you're Pittsburgh right now and you're Tomlin and you know you have to win, it is a very, very tough game. I mean, look, there's pressure on the Ravens to go deep. Is there not? There's pressure on Tomlin to win. And Zay Flowers is banged up. The Steelers haven't won, what is it, 9 years now? Right? If you're Mike Tomlin and you got to figure out a way. You got to figure out a way to get this win. Is there going to be a moment during this game where he decides Russell Wilson's not getting it done? And I'm going to turn around and go to Justin Fields? And listen, I get what you're saying. You have to make the playoffs. But it's also, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me? You're going to tell me Hall of Fame head coaches don't get fired? Hello? Tom Landry? Walsh? I mean, think about it. Walsh, they were almost kind of pushing him out when he decided he was going to retire. Belichick? Andy Reid, it's going to happen one day. Holmgren? Mike Tomlin has had a lot of success, and he's won a lot of games. A lot of games. And listen, I would love to have had the run that the Steelers have run. No doubt. But again, it's what have you done for me lately? That's the world of an NFL head coach. But those are guys, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches. They go from Noel to Cowher to Tomlin. Like, we're talking about the consistency, the model franchise, if you will, when it comes to that. 727-858-6650. But I think they're in a precarious position because you never want to be, and we mentioned this with Belichick and the Patriots, and Jerry in Rhode Island probably still listening in, can attest to this, pardon me. You never want to be the guy to replace the guy. You don't. You just don't. So Belichick, here we go. And then boom. You never want to be that guy. It's very hard to replace the man. It's like in any walk of life, you're at a job, you're working your 9 to 5, you're in your cubicle. Now you're an associate, now you're a supervisor. And then all of a sudden the general manager or your manager has been there for 15, 20 years and they love this guy. He's getting his watch, he's getting his cake. Everyone's going to sing kumbaya for he's a jolly good fellow when he retires. Oh my God, he's got all these big shoes to fill. Now all of a sudden, hey, you're next in line. There's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of pressure on you because now all of a sudden people got to get used to your personality. They have to get used to your working habits. They have to get used to your, work ethic or their lack of. And if it's not lockstep and barrel, you guys are going to be very hard pressed to be successful. Same thing is in the NFL, man. The same exact thing happens in the NFL. And I think a lot of times we lose sight of that. And that's why you have to appreciate, yes, what a guy like Tomlin, what Andy Reid has been able to do. Andy Reid was basically shown the door in Philadelphia. They were not listening to Andy Reid late in the season. They lose 42-7 against the Giants. Everyone knew, see Andy, he goes to Kansas City. He is a Hall of Fame head coach. He's a Hall of Fame head coach. It's rare. But I also think there is a sentiment where we look at these head coaches, one and done, lack of patience, lack of trust. There are a lot of coaches on the hot seat this weekend. A lot of them. Yeah, check out what Cram has to say here. That's the life of every employee. Correct. The madman as only he can. I guess maybe he's LLC with the corporation. Who knows? Trevor chiming back, and I love when these guys go back and forth. Good take, Cram. If Tomlin retires after this season, he's in the Hall of Fame. Of course, 100%. No one's saying no one's saying Mike Tomlin's not a Hall of Fame coach. No one's saying Andy Reid's not a Hall of Fame coach. That's not what I'm saying. We started off talking about these one and done head coaches. Why are they one and done in the NFL? Right? What if you're one and done and you're showing zero patience and tolerance and you're not giving the coaches a good roster or support staff, then guess what? If you've also been a head coach for 10, 15 years and you haven't won in a long time, you are allowed to be on the hot seat. McDermott, if they lose, will be on the hot seat. And I'm not trying to be the hot take here, but don't tell me if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan right now, and if the Eagles go out and lose to the Green Bay Packers and Sirianni has a gaffe, or the play calling is dismal, or he has a bad timeout or bad clock management, you guys are going to be the first to chime in, whether it's going to be Sports Talk Radio, chiming in here, texting your buddy saying Sirianni's got to go. And Sirianni's a couple plays away from being a Super Bowl winning head coach. So I don't care if you've been in the league for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years, for 5 years. There's pressure to win in the NFL. But I also think sometimes it's not fair to some of these coaches. Why are you hiring these guys in the first place if you're just going to discard them after one season? It makes no sense. It just does not make any sense. Sean chimes in on Facebook. Q, I'm having a hard issue and a hard time with black coaches being set up to fail because the option for white coaches is not available. Pierce, Mayo, Carthon were set up from the jump. Management didn't give them talent to work with to grow their teams. Callahan, Dable, Balky, all white with the same horrific win-loss records, and they are still employed. Listen, those are fair points. Those are fair sentiments, but I gave you the numbers. 11 first-time head coaches, 6 white, 5 African-American fired. And the thing with Brian Daboll, if you guys listened to me for a while now, Brian Daboll, and I don't agree, so don't jump on me. I don't agree with this. Brian Daboll was getting a free pass from John Mara because he was coach of the year and he friggin' won a playoff game in his first year. That bought him time. The other argument is I never drafted Daniel Jones. Now, do I agree with it? No, I don't think Brian Daboll is a good head coach. You guys have listened to me long enough, even going back to last season. I thought the Giants should have made the switch. I was a little shocked that Mara came out and gave him a vote of confidence, but we know to a man that he's a dead man walking. He's a lame duck coach. Unless John Mara comes out tomorrow and says, I've extended the GM and the head coach, it's going to be the same conversation in Groundhog Day for Giant fans and me next year at this point on the air. They're going to be 2-7, 2-9 because they're not going to win a lot of football games. Whether they draft Sanders or Ward or Bridge quarterback, they don't have the talent around them. They don't have a quarterback in place to elevate the talent around them. So they're going to struggle again next year. So this time next year, and hopefully it's not a friggin' October when the season's over, but they're 2-7, 2-8. I'm going to come on the air and say, hey, do you remember on that Wednesday edition of The Drive in early January when we talked about one and done head coaches? I don't believe Brian Daboll should keep his job. And it's not because he's white. I just don't think he's a good head coach. To me, it's not a black or white thing. It's not. I think sometimes there's bad hires in the Adam Gase, Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur. Bad hires, man. Right? Tomasulo, bad hires. Now, I'm giving you two coaches I just mentioned, Nick Sirianni and McDermott. Again, who the last time I checked are white, and I'm telling you they're on the hot seat. And they should be. You have to get over the hump. Eventually, you have to put your money where your mouth is. See, the Rooney Rule, there's a misconception, again, with the Rooney Rule. They want to make it fair, competitive, and balance it out, right? So people think right away, the Rooney Rule, you must turn around and hire a minority coach. But it's been so skewed over the last several years in the NFL, and there has been a reason. The Rooney Rule is in place to increase the number of minorities hired in all positions in the NFL. Head coach, GM, executive positions. But at times, the Rooney Rule can kind of, teams, they sidestep it. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. They sidestep it. They kind of, and to Vince's point, and I'll agree, the NFL, some of these owners, and I'll pull up the comments so you guys can see, and I agree to some extent with this. It's not purely race. It's a good old boys network. Coaching jobs are purely about who you know and who likes you. I believe that to be true. But it also goes to any type of job in any walk of life, right? Hey, do me a favor. I got my guy Angel. He's hardworking. He knows how to do X, Y, and Z. Angel gives me his resume, and what do? I walk it in. I'm vouching for Angel Martinez. I'm vouching for Vince. I'm vouching for Trevor. I'm vouching for Madman. I don't know if I'm going to vouch for Cram. I don't know where the hell that name comes from, but I'm vouching. I'm vouching for you guys, right? So do right by me. Make a good impression, right? Make a good impression. So I think it's very hard for a player that has had a lot of success as a player with one franchise to come back and be a coach. It's hard, man. Didn't work out for Magic Johnson. It's very hard. And I can give you other coaches. Larry Bird. It's just, listen, I know and you know what the NFL is ultimately. We know. 727-858-6650. My man, Jovan, we're going to try to get him on later in the week. Pat's just interviewed Brian Leftwich, Pep Hamilton for their head coaching job, and we know they aren't getting the job. So that goes back to the discussion of appeasing. You're appeasing the Rooney Rule. And that's, so I've gone back and forth with this. And hear me out. And I'll use you guys as examples. Have you taken an interview? Okay. Have you taken an interview? Have you gone on an interview for a job? And as you're walking in the interview, and let's be honest, it's all happened to us, where you know for a fact you're not going to get the job. but you take the interview anyway. It behooves some of these candidates to still take the interview, because then you understand the interviewing process better. And I know it sounds like a waste of time. And I know you guys are going to come at me and say that's BSQ. It's not. It's the way of the world. We've all gone on interviews before where we walked out and we're like, we're not getting the job. We're not. I mean, I can't tell you. Over the years, you're sitting there in front of a program director and you're pitching an idea for a show. You're pitching your talent. You're pitching your services, and they're nodding. They love your air checks and they love your demo. Shake your hand. We'll be in touch. And you walk out and you're saying, I'm not getting this job. But you take the interview because you want the experience, or you want to try to leave a good impression, and you're hoping if things fall into place, maybe you get the call back. I know it's apples and oranges. I really do. I know it's apples and oranges, but this is how the NFL works. It's how corporate America works. It sucks. It's not fair. It is what it is. It's a rat race. We're all in the friggin' trenches. And a lot of these jobs in the NFL, what am I doing? You guys know this. Whatever job you guys are working at right now, did you not put in a word for a buddy? Did a buddy not put in a word for you? It's who you know. It's not what you know. And that's unfortunate. But the NFL, because there's millions and billions of dollars at stake, you better know what the freak you're doing as a head coach. You better understand talent evaluation. You better assemble the best staff, not your son or your cousin or your buddy at the bar who talks football with you. You have to know what you're doing. Like a high school wide receiver coach, I'm sorry, you have no business being on an NFL coaching staff. You don't pay your friggin' dues. Aaron Glenn played. He's paid his dues. Some of these guys have paid their dues, but they're not giving a fair shot. They're not interviewing well, or there's just something that the ownership or the GM who's doing the hiring, it's either rubbing them in the wrong way or they're waiting to see something better. Hence the Mike Vrabel effect, which I mentioned yesterday, which pissed off a lot of people. You're not going to tell me Mike Vrabel interviewing with the New York Jets is this hidden leverage right now, and the rest of the NFL that's firing these guys are thinking, that haven't fired guys are waiting to see what's going on with Mike Vrabel. Now, all of a sudden, he's interviewed well with the Jets. He's on the Jets' radar. I got to get rid of head coach A, B, and C. Why? Because I want a shot at Mike Vrabel. Hey, man, there's truth to that. There is truth to that. All right, 33 past the 4 o'clock hour. We'll reset the table, 727-858-6650. That'll get you involved. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock. We'll get to all your comments, as always. I promise, because you guys are fantastic. We are hoping maybe we'll talk a little NBA with our guy, Jermaine Jones, in the 5-ish hour. If not, we'll continue with the NFL talk. We'll start to look in a wild card weekend. Got a lot of comments coming in on Facebook as well. 727-858-6650. We will take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. And again, this is a Wednesday edition of The Drive with Q. Rich Quinones here. I will promise to get to Kevin, Maddie, and Delaware Marcus as well on the other side. 727-858-6650. Keep it locked in on a Wednesday edition of The Drive right here on SR 1029 FM. The Game. We are powered by our good friends over at Zen Auto Concepts, #1 detailing shop in all of the state of Florida. Played Against Sports in Deptford, Played Against Sports in Mount Laurel, and of course, our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase, BYP20.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Call or text the show at 727-858-6650. Now, back to Q.
Bumper guy. I was hoping to fire this guy off, too.
Don't forget to get social
Yeah,
with us.
we go.
Follow
Look at
Q
that.
at
I
Rich
am
Q
off
on
the
Q.
bar.
And now, back to Q.
Telling us to get social. Who the hell needs to get 85 created a monster back here. 858-727 858-6650. Man. Rat races in the bunker. Bunker boys, they got some problems, man. They definitely have some problems. Cram sounds like he's taking a shot at those who maybe have had bad football seasons. Reset the barbecue. The man's name is Vabel. It's not really Vabel. It's Grape. I know it's not Grable with a G. I understand. I mean, yes, the V is kind of silent, like Grable. Isn't that also? Look how Vince phonetically. Wait, isn't that what was the other word? I mean, look, you guys know I'm gonna butcher this. Vabel. No, it's Vrabel. I get it, not G Grable. It's like one time on the air, I said, what did I say with Gene? I think I said Sedator. Like it's Sedator. Can I say Mike W? I mean, is that fair? What's the other friggin' word? See? This is what happens right away. I thought people, I don't listen. This is where we draw the line. Right now, see, this is what happens. It opens it up, the Death Star microphone. Here we go. It's a Fugazi. I think you meant, what's a Fugazi? I think you meant Fugazi. Fugazi, Watusi. 727. This is what happens. You open up the door. Vince decides I'm going to take a little shot at Q, which I'm okay with. That's fine. Correct me. It's like the word I couldn't pronounce that Aaron Rodgers, the, Yucca Daily, whatever the hell it is. Kevin C. in North Jersey chimes in. Q, did you hear that Rex Ryan definitely wants the Jet job? I know that Mike V just interviewed for the Jets job. What's the more appeasing destination? Chicago, the Jets, the Raiders, or Jacksonville? It's a great question. I mean, what are they? Do the Jets have a quarterback? No. Do the Raiders have a quarterback? No. Right? Chicago, are we 100% sold on Caleb Williams? No. I mean, apparently from you guys, Trevor Lawrence is not even top 15. So, would it bother you, right? Would it bother you if you're in a press conference and you're a GM and your owner's to your right and a question is asked Here we go. What if you bring in a head coach that thinks maybe the GM's not the best solution, right? Or have input. And the owner basically turns around and says, yeah, I'd consider firing him. That's what Jacksonville did. So that would scare me. So now you have the Raiders and then Brady, which I'll get into in a moment. You have the Jets and Woody Johnson, and God knows what the hell's going on with the New York Jets. That's a cluster. And then what was the other team? Oh, Chicago. Now, again, whether you guys think Chicago is the best fit, as Vince alluded to, on paper is one thing, but they've got issues, man, with the GM and the ownership group. But if you're talking historically great franchise, that's why I thought Belichick would be one of the best landing spots with the Chicago Bears. And I think if you're a young coordinator and you have an opportunity to coach one of those franchises, then ultimately you probably want to go where you can develop a young head coach. Now, here's my problem with, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. So again, you guys tell me if I'm off base here. Tom Brady is part of the ownership group with the Raiders. Okay. Tom Brady signed that monster contract with Fox. And I don't get like you guys get with the whole, Tom Brady, the broadcast. You got to grow into the role. It's tough to do, man. But Brady is expected to be in on the interview process. Now, a lot of people might not be aware that ultimately Brady can't sit in on production meetings. So sometimes that might limit the filler that's coming out of his mouth during the broadcast because there's a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest, right? So don't you think the NFL is going to have a problem on their hands knowing that Brady is going to have all the say in the world on the hiring process and then still allow him to turn around and broadcast these games? Doesn't it seem like there would be a conflict of interest? I look at it and I believe it would be a conflict of interest. I believe Tom Brady, it might be one or two and done. If you really want to go that route, I think this is set up to be kind of one of these sticky scenarios where, well, look, I mean, if you're really all invested and you're part of the interviewing process, I can't, on good faith, allow you then to be part of broadcast going forward because it's almost as though you know certain things. And that to me doesn't make sense. That to me just doesn't sit well. It just doesn't. And I think there would be a conflict of interest. I think it would be a bad look. I think also, if you're really being fair, it's like, I don't want to give him some knowledge. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit there in the interviewing process and I'm getting all this information out, and let's just say Brady's interviewing someone and then that person turns around and they take the Bears job and the Raiders have to play the Bears next year. That gets me a little nervous. That would get me a little nervous, and I don't know if I'm all for that. That's why I think the NFL is eventually going to step in and they're going to say, you know what, Tom, either you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I understand that Fox is paying him a lot of money. I understand all that. But he's going to have a lot of say in what's going on. A lot. And that can be a little dangerous. That was the most ruthless and shrewd business response I've ever seen, and I'm here for it. Shad Khan is a real OG for that. That was ruthless. That's really bad. That's like embarrassing too. Brady is mid-broadcaster in the number one role. Yeah, but my hope, listen, whether he's mid-broadcaster or not, the point being is, do you think the NFL wants him, being part of the interviewing process and knowing, all these candidates, they come in and they're going to sit down and they're going to state their case on why they should be the next head coach of the Raiders. And the question will be asked, well, what's your philosophy? Now, if I'm a guy, If I know I'm not going to get the gig, I'm not going to give him that information. Because as I alluded to, what if I'm all of a sudden on another coaching staff as a coordinator? And it just so happens that the Raiders are playing him next year. I just, and you're broadcasting again. I just think it's a dicey, it's a really dicey proposition, man. And I think the NFL might step in here eventually. And I understand Tom Brady, Hall of Fame, you throw him Mount Rushmore, one of the greatest of all time, the GOAT, the rings. I totally get that. He's not a limited owner. He's not. Like, he's not a limited owner. Like Mark is saying, Q, relax. He's not, by definition, he might be a limited owner. But you think right now, if Tom Brady goes to Mark Davis today and says, hire this guy, Mark Davis is going to say no? Of course Mark Davis is going to say yes. That's why Mike Vrabel, but you know what scene I'm thinking of right now? Analyze this. As Mr. Viti's Consigliati. You know that movie, Angel? Oh, Angel's locked in right now. Okay. As Mr. Viti's Consigliati. So I think right now, so if Mike V is interviewing, it's just, Vince chimes in. Oh, really? I did not know this. This is a good take, Minnie. Thank you. David Sampson, who does an excellent job, said today, on Le Batard, I got to check that out. He's sure he won't be calling games next year. Wow. It's a lot of money, man. I don't mind him as a broadcaster. Romo burst onto the scene because Romo was calling the plays before they happened. I'm just saying there's a conflict of interest. And if he wants to go hire his teammate and you still want to broadcast these games and you're not allowed to sit in the production meetings, I mean, that would be something. You want to talk about one of the greatest heists of all time. If Brady was able to lure Belichick out of Carolina, I don't know why you guys hammer him as a broadcaster. I mean, do you guys really listen to the game, right? For the broadcaster? I don't know. My man Jay chiming in. Roman knew what was happening because coaches and players told him plays. Well, I think Romo is very good when he started. There was a knock on Romo last year that he's basically just cashing a check and he's not putting in the time. And that was kind of debunked by CBS, even though one of the execs basically, guys like Sean McManus, they wanted to put more Romo to be more prepared. Brady can't sit in these production meetings. So he's very limited when he's talking about filler. And it's like Greg Olsen, I think, is very good. I think Olsen is good. I know people will hammer me. I like Chris Collinsworth. I don't have a problem with him. I don't, Aikman's good. Buck and Aikman, Nance and Romo. I love Nance and Sims. Just give me a solid broadcast where you guys know what the hell you're talking about. But sometimes there are flubs during these broadcasts, and we've all made them, where you're making mistakes that you shouldn't make. I mean, listen, I think it takes time to grow into the position. That's all. And I'm not as critical as you guys are. I think he gives I think people for years wanted to see his personality come out, right? And if you listen to him all the years that he was doing his pod with Jim Gray and Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, again, I don't have a problem with him. I'm not watching the broadcast I'll listen to the broadcast and I'll take notes, especially if I'm watching the fights or basketball. Football, I'm watching the game, but there are certain things that I will listen to, and I might turn around and call the guy out. Sure, I might, turn around and text my buddies and be like, he missed X, Y, and Z. Like, there are little things. Like, if you're nitpicky and you're like, hey, so-and-so was a great acquisition during the offseason, and it was a midseason acquisition. Hey, been there, done that. We made mistakes, right? We made mistakes. But again, we're not, I think everyone was waiting to see, because all the money that was thrown at, is he going to be the next Romo? And Romo was able to call plays before they happen. And I think Brady's been able to just kind of develop. It takes time, man. It takes time. The red light's on. You got the mic. Here you go. Bang, bang, bang. You got 36 different people talking to your ears. All right, get to the graphic, get to the stat. Here we go. Get ready. Lay up. Stop talking. Go into break. Come back. Here we go. Thoughts on this, X, Y, Z. It's a lot going on, man. But, you're a quarterback who won a lot of Super Bowls and he's Hall of Famer. You're processing all that information at once. So, but point being, I think the NFL is going to step in and they're going to be like, you know what? Blanker, get off the pot. Fisher, cut bait. What is it? Minority owner, have stake in the team, but you can't broadcast the games. 727-858-6650. 727-858-6650. A lot of NFL talk. Marcus in Delaware chiming in. Q, you mentioned Sirianni being on the hot seat. Does that depend on if the Eagles lose and get blown out like they did last year against Tampa Bay? I mean, Angel wanted to get Sirianni out of there, last year? We both. And I think a lot of the Eagles fans wanted Sirianni. I think there's pressure on Sean McDermott. I think there's pressure on Sirianni, Tomlin. Just pressure to win in the NFL. Like this notion that, what team has the most pressure heading in to the playoffs? Well, you're going to tell me a team like Washington doesn't have pressure? They have pressure, but it's not magnified like a Baltimore team that might have another MVP year from Lamar Jackson. It's not the pressure for McDermott and Josh Allen, where this could be the year, even though Kansas City's only stubbed their toe once. I don't really count the last game of the season, but whatever, 15-2. There's pressure on them because this is not Kansas City's year. Or maybe this is the year to pick them off, I should say. Pardon me. There's pressure on the Philadelphia Eagles. Look how it can break for Philly. Because my guy, Sam Darnold, did not look good against the Detroit Lions. And I'll tell you this right now, on a Wednesday, and I'll talk more about this later on in the week, especially on BYP, when we look at these games from a gambling standpoint, the Rams can beat the Vikings. So now you discard the Vikings, get them out. Now you're thinking, if you're the Eagles, all right, you get through Green Bay. Can you beat Washington? Yeah. Can you beat Tampa Bay? Yeah. Can you go on the road and need be if, you have 100% Jalen Hurts and you're running the ball with Saquon and the defense is showing up and you put up some points? Can you go on the road and beat the Lions? Yeah. Like, watch what happens on Saturday. The Chargers are sneaky good. The Ravens should beat the Steelers even without Flowers because the Ravens are at home. Their defense is starting to come on a little bit. They can run the football, and I think they're going to get to whoever's under center. Whether Russell Wilson starts, ends, Fields, who knows? And the Broncos, don't discount Denver. I think that's a bad matchup for Buffalo. And it goes back, by the way, to coaching, right? Remember we said this before. Think about the job and look right now. So Sean Payton, if you look, I mentioned this in the offseason when we were going over, and I did this a lot on Back Your Play, when we were talking about coaching staffs, right? So Sean Payton comes over and he takes over Denver. And then he brings in Paul Kelly to be assistant head coach. Then he brings in who? Vance Johnson as a defensive coordinator. Then he brings in who else? Like, think about it. He's bringing on guys that he's familiar with. Lombardi as an offensive coordinator, 20-something years in the NFL. So the thought was that if you bring these guys in, who's going to have more of a hand in the quarterbacking position? Well, you knew damn well it was going to be Sean Payton. And look at the season that Bo Nix has had. That is a sneaky good team, but it's all about the coaching staffs. All about the coaching staff. No pressure on Mike Tomlin, no matter what you might like. Franchise did not evaluate him based on playoff wins. If they did, Coward never would have gotten 15 plus years. No word of Tomlin. I'm telling you right now, if the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and they lose and they get blown out, Tomlin's name will be that hot seat. I'm telling you right now. 100%. You guys don't believe me. And I'm not saying he's going to get fired. I'm saying that they will look into that. That's all. That's all I'm saying. 727-858-6665. I know we're fast approaching 5 o'clock. We will reset the table and come back on the other side. Just remind you to check out SR 1029 FM, The Game. Keep it locked in on this Wednesday edition of The Drive with Q. Rich Quinones here. We're powered by our good friends over at Zeno Concepts. Played Again Sports, fresh roasted coffee. You'll see the link in the show notes as well. 20% off BYP20 for your first purchase. And with the weather being as nasty as it is, if you guys want to warm up a little bit, have a wonderful little cup of Joe. 727-858-6650. Oh, there's pressure. Oh, there's pressure. I love when people are so confident telling me that there's no pressure on head. How do you know? How do you know? There's pressure all the time. Yeah, I don't think, I don't subscribe to this trading coaches. I don't. I'm not I find it funny that Jerry Jones is not going to give Mike McCarthy permission to interview for the Bears job. Like, again, are you saying that you have confidence in Mike McCarthy? That you believe he can be your head coach, add on another 3, 4, 5 years? Is that what we're doing now? Or is Jerry just being Jerry? And, we're going to deny that request. Well, I should say he denied the Bears the request to interview Mike McCarthy. Or is this your perfect example? And by the way, Sarge in Delaware chimes in, Q, Steelers fan, agree 100%. If they lose, Tomlin is definitely on the hot seat. So here you go, a little back and forth. So Jerry Jones, if you think about this, look at this. I'll tell you, he just loves to go back and forth. How about Jerry Jones? This is a classic example where Jerry doesn't want to be in a full-on committed relationship. This is exactly what Jerry Jones is doing. Jerry Jones is, it's the relationship where you're just dating, but she wants the commitment. She wants the commitment, right? You're spending the nights. We're having breakfast together, little wine, little dine, little movies, little Netflix, little watching Carry On. Great flick, by the way, right? And all that stuff. And now you get to the holidays. And the holidays is all about what? Family, friends, having a good time. We've all been there, right? Remember back in the day when you were younger and you're 19, 20, you're dating the cute girl and you have you get to talk with the old man, right? When do I get to meet her? When are you bringing her over? Because that's a big step. Holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever celebration, whatever holiday you celebrate, you bring the new girl over, right? You let the family, they see if she can pass the litmus test, right? You get that drunk uncle. Ooh, she's a keeper, right? Oh, she likes sports, by the way. Oh, did you tell your old man? Okay. Jerry Jones is the guy. Mike McCarthy is the girl right now. And Mike McCarthy is waiting for Jerry Jones to make... I understand what transpired over the last several years, but if you are not allowing me to date other people, then commit to me. And that's exactly what's going on right now in Dallas. That's it. Jerry Jones is probably thinking to himself, well, yeah, Mike McCarthy, he might not be a great coach. He's our coach, and he's not going to be someone else's coach. Well, then commit. Come out and give him a contract extension, because I know the Giants, Washington, and the Eagles fans would love that because they don't think highly of Mike McCarthy. Washington and the Eagles fans are giddy that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are coming back with the New York Giants, right? You got a little soup. I mean, that's what I see in my camera. You wolfing down little Chunkies, little Campbells? What do we got going on there? A matzo ball, a little chicken noodle, a little cow eye soup, a little superora. What do you got? Kale. I don't think I've ever had anything with kale in it. Sausage, potato, and kale. Like chopped potato. Oh my God, you're so small. Oh, you just expanded, but you're still small.
Well, you said you didn't like the other window, so I brought back.
No. Go. No, I can't have this. Can we go? Can we split screen it?
Okay, hold on. I can do that.
Yeah, can you? Remind everyone that it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast. Can you split screen it? Are we transitioning to the split screen?
That's right. No, so she makes.
Can we zoom in on the shot of soup?
Well, I mean, if I tilt it, obviously it's going to, but this is a nice bowl of, and I don't know. Yeah, hold on here, because I want to make sure that it's going to go up.
Don't spill me. God forbid. Shit, I don't want to get the bill spilled on the equipment.
Yeah, but it's it is sausage.
Try to mic. You on radio before? Try the microphone. Go ahead.
You know, I was leaning over. Wise guy. Wait. Jerry from Rhode Island says, "Who ruined sausage by putting kale on it? What the F?" Listen, let me explain. So it's like an Italian sausage, but the ones you can buy from Walmart, whatever, and not.
Stop.
What?
Did you just say it's like the Italian sausage, but you buy it from Walmart?
That you can buy from Walmart.
You Angel.
Hey, listen, I'm just
Angel. I understand executive producers in Studio C, and I'm sure her soup is delicious. Don't ever come on the air, because you're about to get attacked, and say Italian sausage. You have to go to the market for that, not Walmart.
Yes, correct.
That's like me going to the dollar store and saying, "Ooh, there's a special on pasta."
I was just pointing it out there, but yes, you get it from the Italian market. But if it's a lower budget, you can also get it from Walmart as well. But you end up getting it's the potatoes, sausage, spices, the kale. Once you taste it, it makes a lot of sense.
I have to Google what is. I've never had kale, also called leaf cabbage. Oh well, we already know what the group is.
Jerry said, "I hope Jimmy the Beef Guy is busy."
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Think about that. I mean, that's kale. I'm not a.
I'll have to get the name from her. So her son Kyle is the one that made it, and so he was saying, "Hey, you should try this. It's really delicious," and it really is.
I don't doubt. I'm not a soup person. There's only one type of soup that I like.
Chunky soup. Just going back to your G day.
No. Snapper soup. And I do not want to read any of the comments.
See? Now that's worse than me saying Walmart. So where's X-Man Man? I know it's coming. It's coming. Let me look.
No, hold on a second. So it's bookbinder soup, snapper soup. I'm not. I don't. It's just childish with the comments. They're absolutely just children that tune in. So there were two places that had unbelievable, and you can appreciate this if you recall. One of the places, you remember Charlie Brown's back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
fantastic.
Fantastic. They had snapper, and the other was the pub.
Ooh, yes. Definitely the pub.
The pub had a couple things. They had the bread bar
Yeah.
The salad bar. They had the raisin nut bread. Leave the comments alone. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. See, I mean, this is what we're doing. I mean,
Oh boy.
I mean, so, and they had the snapper soup, and it was not.
It's coming. Finn's put the warning out there. It's coming.
It wasn't salty. It was good. It was. It was good. Just children. You guys are freaking children. That's exactly what you are. Bunch of just
I'm
childish.
surprised Next Madman hasn't chimed in yet.
He's probably coming up with some type of joke of the day right now. I have no idea what the hell he's doing. I mean, typically he hears a comment like that,
Yeah.
and
And
he's
quick.
all over it. He is all over it. I don't know. I have no idea. See, I mean, this is what I'm saying. It was a good soup, man. It was very hearty, and I'll just leave it alone. It's good soup. Have your shot, 727-858-665. So much for the NFL talk. Wild card weekend, by the way. Let me get to some of these Facebook comments as well. We got Kevin. I got Marcus. Here you go. This is an interesting one. So D chimes in and says, Q, what's the point of having the Rooney Rule if it's not really implemented? Sounds like the whole league is hypocrisy. And it is definitely the Good Old Boys Network that one of your listeners mentioned. Again, so I kind of explained, not that I have to, the Rooney Rule. And I believe if you are going to interview, see, unfortunately, if you're a coach that got fired, and like, for instance, look what happened with Brian Flores, right? So he had the issue with the Miami Dolphins, and I don't know if anyone heard Ryan Fitzpatrick's comments on Brian Flores. He basically is saying, buyer beware. I mean, he literally just absolutely just kind of toasted Brian Flores. He said he was unrecognizable, right? And what here's the problem. This is what I don't like. And this is what bothers me a little bit. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a journeyman quarterback. He made a lot of money in the NFL. He had some good moments in the NFL. He's a smart guy. He's on TV. He's doing his stuff. What is he? NFL Network, right? Or Amazon Prime, whatever. If you played for a coach, I think there's a level of decorum that should be involved. So, again, I take it to at your job. And maybe it didn't work out. And you have your exit interview. And then you just kind of leave it there and you let it go. Because the last thing you want is to go to another job and interview and then talk poorly about your past employer. Or you're in a job interview and you're saying to to your prospective boss, hey, I have a question. What are the challenges in this role that the other person had? And he turns around and you know what? John was an ass. John had no clue what he was doing. I need a guy to come in here and hit the ground. You're thinking to yourself, man, look at the way this guy's talking about a guy that worked for him for 10 years, right? So now, again, think about this with the whole situation with Brian Flores. Ryan Fitzpatrick comes out and says that Brian Flores was a dictator. I mean, he literally is sounding the alarm against some of these candidates. And again, if Brian Flores wants to go interview with the Bears, let him interview for the Bears and let the Bears make that decision. Let the Bears read the room. But when you come out and you're slamming this guy, I mean, look, we know the Bears have to make the correct. Every team, see, this is the other thing that's just so foolish that just rubs me the wrong way. Every team that's looking for a new head coach, of course you have to make the right hire. Of course you do. If I'm a GM that's on the hot seat, and if I make the wrong hire, I'm going to be out of a job. So the Bears have to get it right. Yeah, so do the Jets, so does Jacksonville, so do the Raiders, so do the Saints, so do the Patriots. You have to get it right, or you're going to retread and get rid of a guy in another year or two. That's number one. Number two, you come out and you basically, and this is what he did, man. He came out and he hammered Brian Flores. Just hammered him. You want to talk about, harsh words? And listen, opinions vary, man. We get it. But this is what he mentioned, right? He said it on, I think it was on Le Batard show again. If you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, then you don't belong doing what you do. That shouldn't be here. Then this guy should be here. Then you haven't earned the right. And then you have someone else come in and tell you, dude, you're the best fit for this. You're accurate. You're the best, whatever. You're this, you're that. How would that make you feel? Listening to one or the other. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of the same thing that rubbed Tua the wrong way. I remember a lot of people were saying, well, he called out Tua. He called Tua soft. And then when Tua was getting hurt, people are like, well, wait a second. Maybe there's something to see here. Now, I think there's a difference. You can be soft, meaning, you don't have that fight in you. But if you're injury prone, that's one thing. You can't control that sometimes. You can't. So now you got Fitzpatrick coming out and almost tap dancing on this guy's grave a little bit. And I feel as though if Brian Flores interviews for a couple jobs, say he interviews with the Jets and he doesn't get it. He interviews with the Bears and he doesn't get it. He interviews with Jacksonville and he's 0 for 3. You don't think for 1 minute people are going to look back and they're going to look, they're going to read between the lines with these comments? See, that's the issue I have. Like you're saying the guy was a dictator. Like that's not flattering at all. And I feel as though, again, you've got some of these coaches in place, and all they're trying to do, or some of these potential candidates, they're just trying to get a gig. That's it. And I remember at the time when Brian Flores had the issue with the Miami Dolphins and the lawsuit with the NFL, and now it's just kind of dissipated, and the stuff with, the text from Belichick to Daboll, congratulations. Oh, by the way, it was the wrong Brian, this, that, the other thing. And that's when we started to talk about the Rooney Rule with the Giants. And right away, they were so quick to hire Brian Daboll. And of course, prime away from Buffalo with Joe Shane. I think, I don't know, man. I think there's a way that Ryan Fitzpatrick could have went about it a little better. You want to sit there and say, look, he's tough to play for. He's a coach that expects a lot of you, and sometimes, yeah, I guess it rubbed the players the wrong way. But that's not what he's doing. I mean, he's basically, his comments right now, he's got a name. Like I said, he's got a name. His name holds clout. The network holds clout. People listen to these shows. Do you watch these shows? I'm not going to tell you that GMs and ownerships make a decision based on what some of these former players said, but you got to bet your ass that they're listening. I mean, the last thing you want is a GM or a head coach or an owner making a decision based on what fans are saying to former players, but they're listening. And now you make these comments and it's like, okay, now what happens if Brian Flores doesn't get a job? Like, are we going to revert back to the conversation or the comments by Ryan Fitzpatrick? 727-858-6650. 727-858-6650. And in North Philly chimes in. Q, you hit the nail right on the head. Thank you for being the only one that actually had the balls to say it. I thought what Fitzpatrick did was absolutely lowbrow and bush league. He's a POS for saying it. Well, I'm not going to go that far, but I thought it was lowbrow. Because those comments, people listen. And in the back of somebody's mind, they're going to be like, well, Fitzpatrick said this guy, maybe he's a little bit of a dictator. He can run people the wrong way. There was an issue with Tua, and he made a stink with the lawsuit and X, Y, and Z. And man, it's just that's tough. I would not envy anyone in that position right now, because I think what you've just done is you made it a little more harder now for Brian Flores to get a head coaching job. 727-858-6650. All right, Angel, I'm going to try it. What do you think? Let me see here. So, do I have to walk through while we're on the air right now? So I'll say we are going to take a quick time out, but we're going to do that. And when we come back on the other side, we'll reset the table. 727-85. Yes, please. 727. Wait, 6650. Got to remind everyone, we are brought to you by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Don't forget the back of your plate portion of the show when we do our odds and our bets. You can use the promo code BYP20, 20% off your first purchase as well. Keep it locked in. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Wednesday edition of The Drive. And keep the comments coming, even the jackass comments that are coming. You know what? The snapper comments, you guys want to keep them coming? That's fine. 727-858-6650. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow, that's awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
Yeah. Or, hold on, wait for it.
Don't forget to get social with us. Follow Q at RichQ on Q. And now, back to Q.
Very demonstrative. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? 20 past the 5 o'clock hour. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock, 727-858-6650. JC on Facebook chiming in. Q, really enjoying your show. I really appreciate your passion and your insight. And I have to agree with you. I think what Ryan Fitzpatrick did is very, very unprofessional. I don't think anyone's going to reprimand him, but it's a bad look in the optics. It's already hard enough for African-American head coaches to have an opportunity to coach in the NFL, let alone have stability at that position. I'm a little disappointed in Fitz. You are entitled to your opinion. Absolutely. I mean, we say, let your voice be heard, man. That's what we want on the show. 727-858-6650. Look, talking heads are talking heads, right? I mean, it's what we do for a living. But, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just. Oh, now you're taking over the comments. I was about to slip it in there. Does the NFL change the Rams game this weekend? What the hell does that mean? Because of the fires. I'm sorry. Duh. Jeez. I didn't mean to be insensitive with that. I was about to kill Trevor on that one. Wow, that's a good question. Where's that stadium? Inglewood? SoFi Stadium? And where are those fires right now? California? That was that Pacific Palisades, right? All right. I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been any type of there's no announcement or anything. I mean, I guess Trevor's asking, do they think they? That's a really good question. You know what?
You would have to. One is that the NFL would have to have basically between tomorrow.
Logistically, a nightmare.
Yeah, because then you got to figure. I mean, for all the people either that came into town, plus you'd have to find a neutral site somewhere. It would just be. It would be a mess because you got everything that's lined up.
Yeah.
Then rescheduled or moved or something else. So unless they go down to San Fran, if they keep it in state, then you'd almost have to get then the clearance from San Francisco to say.
Which they would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen, I mean, I'm checking the feed right now. It's a really good point you bring up. But that game, I mean, they can't control the fires.
No.
It's really bad.
Yep. And I've never heard in my lifetime that if they go to the fire hydrants, that there would be no water coming out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what he said, which makes no sense. That was on the news earlier today. I'm like, how in the world do you turn around and you say that there's no water coming out of a fire hydrant? The only way that works is that if there's either a water main break where they had to shut the water off, therefore it doesn't come, transition over, or if they're switching the pipeline from one to the other. But I've never heard of someone going to unless, again, it could be a dummy one, but that's rare. And if they do, it's usually green. But if you're going to a yellow fire hydrant that's on the road somewhere, it is supposed to be tagged to let people know, hey, by the way, the fire department has stated that there is nothing coming out of here. But I find it super hard to believe with all the fire hydrants that are within the area that not a spot of water is coming out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And Trevor, I apologize. I do. You're always so surprised when I have a good question. Well, there was really no context to the question. You kind of caught me off guard. Man says Monday Night Playoff football. I don't like it either. I don't like how it's set up. But again, we know the NFL. It's so freaking greedy.
Yippers.
Right? It's so greedy. And we know it. Everyone knows it. Jimmy turns around. A Skull fan Q, thank you for saying what we've been talking about, me and my buddies, for the last 20 or so minutes. It's utterly ridiculous that Fitzpatrick goes on and opens his jab. It's almost as though not only is he screwing Flores out of a head coaching job, but he's already talking about, hey, this is why you shouldn't hire the guy. That's ridiculous. Well, if a franchise believes he's the right candidate, see, Eric Bieniemy, and I know this for a fact, that he needed to be coached up because he was not interviewing well. And he was rubbing people the wrong way during the interviewing process to some extent. Like just how he was trying to convey the message. So that's when you hear someone say they didn't interview well, it's not because they're not educated or they're not intelligent. It's maybe because they're too brutally honest or maybe too lax. Or maybe too laissez-faire. When you're sitting there and you've got the interviewing process and you've got all the people in the room and you got the GM and you got the owner, I mean, you're selling yourself, right? It's the elevator pitch. As soon as you walk through that door and shake hands and look at everyone eye to eye and sit down, either they're going to buy in for this interview or in their mind, they're already mentally checked out. And he was having that problem. They had to coach him up, right? Because what was the whole narrative why isn't Eric Bieniemy not getting a head coaching job? Why is Eric Bieniemy not getting a head coaching job? Well, there were reasons for that. And unfortunately, it just hasn't panned out. Like right now, I think two really good hot candidates. They're both with the Lions. I've always been a big fan of Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn can come in right now and be a successful NFL head coach. Why? because he's got the pedigree. He played the position. He's a very good defensive head coach. He played in the New York market for a long time. The guy played in the NFL for, I think, 13 or 14 seasons, but he also cut his teeth. He was a defensive backs coach. He was another defensive back coach with Cleveland, with the Saints, and now he's with the Lions as a coordinator. Plus, he's also understands the administration role. Now, again, he was a scout with the Jets, but he was also part of the Houston Stallions as a GM. And I think he can come in right away. He's not too far removed from the game. You stick him in the New York market, defensive minded. He knows how to handle the media. Okay? He knows how to handle the media. And I think that is a plus. Some of these head coaches have no idea how to handle the media.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest. I ripped Sirianni. I don't know if it was one of his early press conferences talking about a flower and growing, and it reminded me of the song by Bette Midler, The Rose.
Yeah, it was his first year.
And then Mike Consigliere, he doesn't, he looks at the media and he has his thoughts, and his answers are very quick and they're very short, and Rabel doesn't like to answer to the media. And then you have Belichick, and you can get away with it when you win all those types of Super Bowls. So some of these guys can be flippant in their response and others can. I mean, would it bother you if you're a potential candidate and you hear what Ryan Fitzpatrick says about you right before you're trying to interview and get a job?
Nope. For me, I wouldn't, because why? First of all, he's never been a head coach. I understand you're an athlete. I understand you're a QB, but you were never a head coach. So you can say whatever you want to about me. In the end, I'm the one that has to prove it. So I can talk somebody up and say, oh yeah, he's the best candidate ever. I mean, you would be a fool to pass it up. And if I've never been with that person 24/7 and they do something, and then I get the word like, you recommended this person, and they turn out to be an absolute joke, then the joke's on me. But in the end, if you're going to be a head coach in the NFL, do your homework, make sure that you are worthy enough to become a head coach. Because if not, that's the worst thing. Like if you're a coordinator, let's say for 5 years with Kansas City, for example, your job's pretty much secure unless you do something wrong. Now you decide to throw your ring in the hat for HC.
That's what he wanted to do. He decided, I want to get under or out of Andy Reid's shadow.
Right. And how did that work out?
And listen, you can have an opinion, but if you're not interviewing well, there's got to be a reason you're not interviewing well. And again, let's be honest. I mean, what did you do with that offense last year in Washington? Nothing. They sucked.
Yep.
You left Big Red, and now you're out of a job. And I'm not saying you got to tap dance, man. I'm not. And I'm not saying sometimes you got to get along, you got to play along to get along. I'm not implying that either, but it's the rules of engagement in the NFL. It's the rules of engagement. And I know people, you guys are smart enough to understand how the game is played. Okay? You know that. It's not a black and white or a gray issue. It's not. It's just understanding that before you give me the keys to the car, the keys to the castle, you're going to vet and you're going to look me up and down. You're going to ask me questions that are going to come out of left field, man. You're going to dig because I'm about to entrust in you my franchise to get the coaching staff, to build a roster, to try to win some football games. And again, if you're lucky, you have a hit. You have a diamond in the rough, right? Yep. You go for that guy no one ever heard of. Andy Reid, we're talking about an offensive guy, a tackle guy, a position guy. McVay, young guy, Tomlin, here we go, right? But there's also a shelf life. Max chimes in North Jersey. Q, I wholeheartedly disagree with you, my friend. I'm loving the show and I'm loving your takes, but let's be honest. Brian Daboll was coach of the year. They did win a playoff game on the road, mind you. Daniel Jones was not their quarterback at all. We know, your listeners know it was a Gettleman pick. I think you ride it back with Daboll and Joe Shane, and you get the quarterback that day one. I'm not buying it. I'm not. I'm not buying it at all. 727-858-6650. Joey B. Good afternoon, Q. Good afternoon, Angel. What do we got here?
And but hold on, before you read Joey B next, Mickey, what is going on with you? Is what I would like to know.
Hold on a second. Is Mickey still? Mickey said you should fire me.
Right, keep going.
Did he say I like salty snapper soup?
No.
I mean, do I have to just keep scrolling up? We got a lot of comments here.
First, he said, "How are you basically still employed?" And then he said, "How come you haven't fired Rich?" And then he turned around and says, "Angel, you're fired." Which one is it? I mean, who's going to be on? No one.
How about this? How about Mick coming out of the? How about this? This is Mick. Is there a real show coming on at 3 with Jay? This guy Blow.
That's what I was. That's what I was talking about.
Hold on. Let's get to this one. First off, I do not want you to rub me at all, Rich. All right. Apparently that bothered Kiki as well. Let's take a timeout. Angel, you're fired. Interesting. What? I mean, is it like, I don't know. Perhaps I rub him the wrong way.
Possibly. But it's still, I mean, you can't, what are you going to do? Get rid of the entire team? Who's going to come on?
I mean, I feel bad because, if Mick doesn't know, obviously since I have skin in the game, that decision has to go through 2 other partners, including myself. Sorry, Mick. And Mick, it's 5:30. I mean, we're talking nap time, a little Ensure, right? A little tea. Get the hell under the covers, my man. Get under the covers.
It's early afternoon up there in the left coast where he's at. It's 2:30.
Oh, it's 2:30. Wow. Well, maybe he missed his nap. I don't know.
I know.
Remember, you watch Price is Right? Right?
Yep.
You do that, and you watch the old trucker commercials, maybe little Judge Judy. Golden Girls on Lifetime? I don't know. I mean, let's go back to this. Hold on. I want to go back. I want to get the listeners' take on this.
All right.
The verbiage just really, here we go. I'll let the listeners break this down. Angel, is there a real show, come on, Mimiga, on at 3 with Jay, this guy Blow? Huh. Interesting. It's like the line in Spaceballs, right? With the vacuum. She's going to stuff the blow. Hold on. Oh, how about the madman coming in?
Oh, no.
Whoa, Rich. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. Oh, that's from Goodfellas. Hey, whoa, Anthony, hold on. Let me get to Vince's comment. This is a good comment. Hold on. I like Vince because he likes to come back at me. Quote, rubbing people the wrong way is problematic. That implies you got to kiss ass, and we all hear is that you should be hired based on merit. No man has a better resume for a head coach than Eric Bieniemy. Get out of here. First of all, the rubbing people the wrong way, I know I rub people the wrong way. But I know, I mean, that is a fact. But I know what you're implying here, where these positions are so sparse. And if you have an opportunity to get it, I'm sorry. And you guys are not going to like what I'm going to have to say. You do have to play the game a little bit. I'm not saying you sell your soul to the devil. I'm not saying you don't believe in your convictions. And I'm not saying you have to, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. But you have to interview. You have to have this perception, right? You got to act like you've been there. And there are some head coaches that, let's be fair, they have basically pulled the wool over some of these GM's eyes. I mean, some of them have no business being a head coach. They just don't. And their track record shows it. They don't have the equity. They don't have the credentials. They don't have the experience. And what happens is you get rid of them after a year. Black, white, yellow, green, purple. I don't care. It's not about color. It's not about race. It's about experience. It's about hiring the best guy for the position, for the job, because there's so much at stake. I'll never forget and this is really dating, going back. and this is when I just started out. And I mean, we're talking a long time. When Ray Rhodes got fired, everyone was saying Ray Rhodes was fired from the Eagles, and he was fired because he was black. And I was like, what are you talking? Where are we getting this nonsense? Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He was not fired because, like, it was so. I mean, I was incredulous. I was screaming at the top. I'm like, what are you talking about? It was time for a change. The guy was 5-6 games under 500, and he went to the playoffs, and he was just 1-2. Okay, you move on. You move on. It has nothing to do with white, black, none of that.
Nope.
None of. If you go back to 1997, everyone was talking about. It was such a talented team. They started 1-3. They were 6-9-1, and they had a stretch of 0-7-1 on the road. It was time for a change. Hell, again, I can give you coach after coach after coach. Shermer was a debacle. McAdoo took him to the playoffs. Debacle. Joe Judge was a jackass. Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year, won a playoff game. I don't care about equity. You haven't been successful over the last 2 years. It's been so bad. You can't justify keeping him as a head coach. So my whole point when you start to say this, that, the other, this color, that color, it's on merit. It's on what have you done for me lately? And some coaches have been around. Marvin Lewis never won anything, and that guy hung around forever. Tomlin won a Super Bowl his second season, but don't tell me Steelers fans, aside from Vince, and I respect his opinion, don't tell me Steelers fans are thinking if we lose in this playoff game and get blown out, we want a new head coach. Because I guarantee you that's what they're thinking. Every coach has a track record. We're just talking about the FCC shutting us down. What am I missing here? Is this the conversation that goes on with the listeners back and every team and every coach has a track record, and they also have a shelf life. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even. Madman came in with the joke. Oh, he said, "Oh, how about this? Oh, is this true? We have a little troll plant. Remember the guy that came in and called me a jackass and no one listens to me, but he hung around for 2 hours? Yeah. That's the kind of listener we want."
No, Mickey is not a plant. Mickey he has sent me plenty of messages before.
All right. I mean, just AI generated? Old man generated? What is it?
No, but did you happen to see Joey B's comment there from 3 minutes ago?
A lot of comments are coming. Go ahead. You can fire them off. Go ahead.
So you have this one here, which I am wondering how in the world this is going to happen, because he says Beavs needs to make the trip to Tampa on February 1st, 2026. Live show from Angels Backyard or from Tampa Joe's for the Bruins Lightning game. Now, I want everyone to understand.
Hockey.
Correct. Outdoor hockey in Tampa in February, where there's times where we can get up to 80 degrees.
Ice is going to melt, man.
So I'm just wondering who came up with that one, because so they do have an ice skating rink in Tampa for Christmas. So they have for about 3 weeks. Does it stay icy? Of course not, because it turns watery. And I'm surprised that people don't really kind of bust behind on it.
It's pretty cool though. When I did the fights at the Rock, the Prudential Center, the prior night they had a hockey game and they laid the I was like moving my feet and I saw like a little bit of ice. That was pretty cool. I liked it, but I like fights. 727-858. Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, sometimes we just. And I mean, I see right there. Obviously, we see the jokes of the day coming through. We're not even going to get into that joke. I got a lot of people on Facebook asking me, what's going on with Snapper. I'm not even going to comment on that.
Speaking of, thanks to those who follow and liked us on the Coastal Sports Network Facebook page, as Q was the one that first fired off on there. And so today we had 3 successful attempts. Pete this morning, myself at mid-morning, and then Q here on the drive.
Oh, nice.
Oh, boy.
Justin and Maryland chimes in. Crew not Q, not so much snapper, but we are famous for our
Which is true. It is very true.
There's there's a promoter in Baltimore, James Hogan. They call him Ponytail Promotions, because he's got a ponytail. But go figure, right? Like Fat Tony, and he's skinny. So he's got he does a lot of these fights at the Patapsco Arena, which is in downtown Baltimore, and it's like not a bad venue, but it does look like it looks like the venue set up for, say, the C team, and I'll leave it at that. Now, point being is, in the plaza, if you go all the way in the back when you park your car, they got like all these crab places, like lobster and crab. And I think one of them is called like Crabbies. So, I mean, listen, Maryland, Baltimore, the DMV for crabs and stuff like that.
No, but there is a place down here called Krabby Dick's.
Really?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that, we never know who's listening. Yeah, I don't get ready to do the fight, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, so you think our venue looks like the C team?" Man,
we don't have a good time here on the drive.
There is there's a place.
It's true, Vince. Listen. What do you want me to tell you? It's a true establishment.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, there's a lot of those places down the shore.
Yeah,
right.
Listen, Florida's got some unique games to some of the restaurants.
I mean, I can only imagine. Let me just get a couple more of these in here. Chris chimes in.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not going to read the first part of it with the snapper. I'll get to the football part. Q, if I was Flores, I would knock the shit out of Fitzpatrick. I mean, look, that's a tough spot. Like I said, I feel you don't want to badmouth people, right? I just think there's etiquette involved, man. If you're trying to go for a job, and I get it, he's being honest, but I think there's a way you can not tap dance, but I think there's a way you can approach certain things. And, a couple guys about 15 or 20 minutes ago were asking me like the pressure points this weekend for the NFL when we're talking about, these teams. And Sean chimed back in, Tom and Summers Point, Joey D in Philly as well. Bobby D, I mean, it's all, the D's, I don't know. They're all related. The sentiment's the same. Every team this weekend has pressure. It's just what franchises are really. The Eagles, to me, have pressure to make a deep run. Buffalo has pressure to make a deep run. Mm-hmm. Baltimore has pressure to make a deep run. I think Tampa, and Gas Pump Guy might disagree with this. I think they're playing with a little bit of house money. I know people don't like that phrase. I think Washington's playing with a little bit of house money. Washington, because it's a young team, rookie quarterback, the expectation. I think Denver's playing with some house money. But those are the teams that are dangerous because they're probably thinking they don't believe we belong here. So maybe you play a little more loose, but pressure's on Detroit. I mean, pressure's on Detroit. When you have, again, and I don't even think, to some of the comments, least pressure. To your point, there's all pressure to win. But Kansas City, now, are we going to sit here and say Kansas City might have the most because of what they're trying to accomplish to get back to the Super Bowl and win it again? I think there are teams that have, quote, house money and they will play loose. But the expectation, again, is for them to go out there and play well. And I'll disagree with a couple of these comments. You're talking about teams with the least amount of pressure, and then you're sitting here saying, okay, here we go. the Denver Broncos, I think Sean Payton, this guy is a playoff tested head coach. He's won a Super Bowl before. And I said this the other night, and I said it in the 4:00 hour. That's not a gimme game for Baltimore. It's not. That's not a gimme game for Baltimore. Don't look at Denver because of what they did against Kansas City that rested everyone. Denver's going to come to play. Maybe Denver's hanging around 21-13, and then Buffalo pulls away in the third or fourth quarter. But let it be known, if you're Buffalo and you're Josh Allen, look, if Buffalo loses, if I'm not going to say Minnesota, I'm not going to say Detroit. If Buffalo loses, if the Philadelphia Eagles lose, and I'm sorry, I got to say Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm not even touching, I'm not even touching that comment. You know why? Because I can take that comment and I can take it into a lot of directions.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to. You want to know why? Because I'm a gentleman, Angel. I'm a caballero. I'm a gentleman.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
Jive ass, maricon, motherfucker. I'm not. Yeah, there's if those teams lose, then you will have the conversation on Sunday and Monday. If the Eagles go out and the Eagles lose 28-26 and they play their guts out and lose on a last-second field goal, and Sirianni coached a good game, you can live with it. But if they're not running the ball early, right? If they're not feeding Saquon, if they go away from the run, if they burn timeouts, if they come out flat, if they're struggling, and they lose by 17 against the Packers, is Sirianni out of a job? Or is it just ludicrous? Is it jackass type of talk right now from me? I mean, you're an Eagles fan. You're a diehard Eagles fan. We have a lot of Eagles fans that listen, and I'm not trying to give you a hot take. I'm asking an honest, serious question. If they put up the type of effort they did against Tampa Bay last year, is he fired?
Yeah. Because at this point, what else? They gave you the biggest break possible by bringing you back after what happened last year. Let's put that out there, because they had stated, meaning the Eagles had stated, that they didn't want to get rid of him because they figured they would give him the benefit of the doubt and bring him back. Same thing happens. You're not secure. I don't care how good you were this season. The way Jeffrey Lurie would look at it is like, we can't keep repeating the same process. So he would end up being let go. But there's before we get out of here, I know we got a couple still, but Jerry from Ryan said, Q, I don't watch much, just listen. Those gloves behind you, who signed them?
Oh, so that's a very good question. The ones over here, Michael Moore. Okay. Former heavyweight champ of the world, by the way. And the ones underneath, one of my all-time favorites. And it's a trivia question. If you guys know fights, know boxing, the Camden Buzzsaw, that was his nickname. You know who was known as the Camden Buzzsaw? Anyone?
That would be Woodrow Wilson.
Close, but no. That would be one Dwight Muhammad Qawi, who is a Baltimore fighter, lived in Camden, and he was a fantastic. So Dwight Qawi fought from like 77, 78 to 98, world champ, 2 weight classes, right? WBC, Ring Magazine, light heavyweight titles from 81 to 83, WABA cruiserweight. The knock on him, he would joke, fighters, they fight their way out of the division. I ate my way out of division. He had 2 epic wars. If you go to YouTube, 2 epic fights against Evander Holyfield. And the second one, I believe, was DeJuan Wagner from Camden. Thank you very much. Greg Barr from Camden, by the way, averaged 50 a game in high school, mind you. The second one in 1988, it was in the old Omni, and it was like 1,000 degrees. I believe he went the distance with Holyfield, but years later, everyone contested at Holyfield. And again, this is what they contested. Holyfield was on steroids. So you got the gloves there. You got my guy right there. Duke Snyder, my father's one of his favorite players, the Duke of Paducah, Duke Snyder. And then of course we got, the little mini. Did you ever see the little mini? I got the little mini. Like the real video mini. You know what I found the other day, and I bring it out during playoff time. Might have to show you guys. Remember the old drink trays?
Yeah.
I have the one. It was like with the original helmets, and there was only, I think, 20 something on NFL teams. Like back in the day, when your family's having people over and they bring out the cart,
Yep.
the tray, right? Joey B breaking balls as only he can. Q's nickname in 1985. Listen, first of all, 1985. I was a pup. I wasn't not down the shore. The buzzsaw. They never knew what hit them. I wasn't driving. What the hell? 1985. Oh, the Oldsmobile. Man, that was a great car. I love the Oldsy. I absolutely miss that car. I mean, it was a piece of shit, but I miss it. Do you have Kiki's first torn up play toy? Huh. I mean, I think you guys know the answer to that. Yeah. You know what I did the other day? I screenshot her first steps in the snow, her paw print.
Hey, but you know what? There's a lot of people end up doing
like the baby, the infant has to print. Yeah, the paw print. And I honestly, I did not think she would like the snow, but she does. So we'll run up and down for like 20, 30. I have to tell her, don't eat the yellow snow. I got to explain that to her. But yeah, the paw print. Yeah, absolutely.
Boy.
That's ridiculous. Does Kiki growl at the TV when the NBA comes on? Trevor, his nickname is not a suitable for
And of course, X-Man wants to enlighten.
Yeah, you know what? We can you know what, Joey? I tend to agree with you on that one. Let's just keep that comment up for a couple moments. I tend to agree. 727-858-6650. You know what? It gets to the point, and I get it. You guys have hung with us pretty much the whole day. You've hung with me for 2 hours. You start to get, I see what happens. They get a little loopy, right?
Just a little bit.
They get a little loopy. Let me squeeze in one or two.
Joey?
I mean, I'm not, again. Greg, in the DMV, I know exactly the place you're talking about, and rest assured, I don't need Robitussin after I go there and eat.
Jeez. There was that. What? It's like the one.
What is Angel? Seriously, what the hell is wrong with our listeners?
I know it's at that time of the day. It gets to be a long day when it's colder. You get loopier. That's the bigger problem. But I remember there was a place for those who know the state of Maryland. There's a Glen Burnie is known as Glen Burnouts. There's a reason behind it, but they used to have a place, and I don't even know if they have it or not. It's called Timbuktu, and they would have lumps of crab cakes that was like, I want to say like maybe $5, and I mean you had a heaping stack.
Really?
Yeah, you can. No lie, 3 people could eat off that $5 plate. How much? But it was terrific.
You know, every time I used to go to Maryland or drive.
You can't even get snow right.
I would always think Chevy Chase, Maryland was named after
Chevy Chase. So there are a lot of people, so don't feel bad.
But it's not. You know that,
right?
Yeah, it's not. A couple guys were asking if I have any great, movie suggestions because a lot of you guys are pissed. I recommend it. Carry on.
That was pretty bad.
No, I can only say, what was I? Oh, you know what I started to watch? and I have to make sure I have the name right. The Madness on Netflix.
I don't think I've come across that one yet.
All right. The guy's
No,
like a, huh?
Or have you seen Kaleidoscope on Netflix?
Oh, I couldn't get into it.
No?
No, I couldn't get into it. I think I did 1 or 2 episodes. No. What was the show? I told you I finished Squid Game season 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a show that's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about a show that hits on every social parameter in this world and what's wrong with the world and greed. I give you Squid Game. I haven't finished Cobra Kai. In the Madness. Fool Me Once was okay. Lincoln Lawyer season 3 is coming up soon. And then I got to get into Bosch. Whoa. See, this is a problem I have.
What happened?
If I just say I just started with an episode, I don't need you guys to. This is what. It's ridiculous. You're going to tell me how it ends? By the way, pet peeve on a text thread the other day, my friend's talking about a show, and then the one turns around and says, "Oh yeah, well, it got bad after the wife was killed." What if I want to get in there and watch it?
Well, then that's what ends up happening.
Whoa. Better still than the stupid bank robbers in Portugal. Did you see Money Heist?
That was terrible. It was terrible. And he walks away. And that's the end of the show, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. We do appreciate it. But
wait.
I didn't like it. I didn't. To me, it took too long, and it was a long roundabout just to get to here.
Wait. First of all, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. It was the most watched show in Netflix history in the most watched countries. That's number one. Second of all, it was 5 seasons. So you make it sound like it would have been a chore for you to watch the whole show, which is ridiculous. Now, you see, here's the problem, Angel. This is the difference between you and I. When I get in, I fully fully embrace, fully commit. And I'm going to tell you how sick I am. And I'm going to tell you the problems I have. I watched a show on Netflix. It was called Black Money Love. It was in Turkish. Hold on a second. Ask me how many episodes it was.
27.
160.
And you watched everything. Holy Jesus.
So my level of commitment is always there for you to take a shot again at Money Heist. I would have done the voiceover. Money Heist was a fantastic show. It was, no. And it's funny too, because the same people that rip on Money Heist, for instance, would you agree, and I know we got to wrap it up, would you agree that Heat was a great movie?
Heat was a good movie.
Okay. It had one of the greatest shootout scenes ever, right?
Yeah.
How would you like if a buddy texts you after 10 minutes and says, I don't want to watch it, it's too slow?
No. No. All right. Thanks, Madman.
Yeah, see, there's the shots to get out of here. But I won't. I watch the Giants against the Eagles on Sunday. Don't friggin' tell me my business. All right, we got to start wrapping it up with you goofballs. What did we learn today? We learned that I like snapper soup.
Yep. There's crabs in Maryland.
There's a lot of crabs in Maryland.
Yep.
Kiki's toy is saved. We got some gloves in the box.
Gloves in the box.
And Heat is a top 10 movie. Yeah. Bacon cookies. Get the hell out of here. All right. It's a Wednesday, right? Who's coming?
Wednesday. So Beeves World is coming up right now.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, right after you. And then we have Gary Myers.
Yeah, listen, it comes full circle. Beef, crabs, right? Snapper soup. Comes full. Oh, Gary Myers is coming on the air.
Yes.
Oh, great book, by the way.
Yeah.
What's that? The what was it? Once a Giant, always a Giant.
Yep.
Gary Myers is. I'm curious if I'm pretty. I would like to know, and maybe Jay, who does a
Or
great
you can skip
job,
into the studio.
can ask this question. I'm wondering if Gary thinks it was the right call to retain Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. And Gary Myers is going to tell you right now, Eli's a walk-in Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that. And we also learned some of our listeners like to yell us know. All right. So we learned a lot today. Listen, the more you grow, the more you know, right? And vice versa. All right. So we got to start wrapping it up on a Wednesday. Good stuff from you guys as always. 727-858-6650. Keep it locked in. Jay's coming up, Beeves World as well. Do not forget, download the app. Check us out on SR 1029 FM The Game. Angel Martinez behind the glass producer, keeping us on the air. Have a good Sports Wednesday audio version for you guys that love the audio and no video tomorrow from 5 to 6. Have a good Sports Wednesday. Be safe, be sound as always. I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.